Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Sabrina Zohar Show. My name is Sabrina Zohar, and I am your host. Guys, it's wild that I actually still have to remind myself to say my name, the Sabrina Zohar Show. Talk about teach an old dog two tricks. Guys, welcome back to another week. I'm excited as always. We've got a very special guest today. Shaun, he is the Love Drive on Insta. I have been a fan of Shaun for no joke, the last 8 years. I have been following him. My friends and I used to send each other his videos. He's just such a great human. And honestly, this conversation filled my cup because we talked about a lot of things, but something that's really important that we discuss is about dating with HSV, having an STI. How do you have the conversation? How do you receive that conversation? How do you take care of your sexual health? And we talk about so many other things, but that is just something that I really wanted to highlight on this episode. And it's something a lot of you guys have written in. And anonymously, right? And I totally understand that. And as somebody who dated for a long time, I understand receiving that conversation. And so I'm really excited to have this chat with you guys because our sexual health is something that we're so in control of that, and to a certain extent, of course, but within reason, we are. You have the authority to go get tested and to have, knowledge is power. I'm excited. And guys, thank you as always for everything. Please don't forget, follow along on the socials. Everything, of course, is linked in the show notes. The Sabrina Zohar Show on Insta, Sabrina.Zohar on TikTok, and of course, YouTube. Follow along if you guys want to watch all of this happening, all the episodes. And guys, as always, please rate and review the show. Share it with a friend. Please be kind, whatever verbiage you use when you're reviewing it, since I do read them. But I respect everybody's opinion. You all have you have a voice, you get to use it. So I'm thankful, I'm grateful. And guys, as always, if you need anything, join the course. The breakup course is roaring. The foundation course is out there. We are here to support you guys in any ways that you need. And I'm just excited because you guys are on this journey with me and I'm fucking stoked. All right, without further ado, let's get right on into it, shall we? Well, hello, Shaun. Welcome to the Sabrina Zohar Show.
Wow, your podcast voice is really nice.
That's why they all tune in. I know I used to work at a salon back in the day, in college, and every time I pick up the phone, people were like, "Oh, you've got such a good camera, a phone voice." I'm like, "Ooh, phone sex?"
You got a radio voice.
Thank you. Hopefully not a radio face though. All right.
I didn't say it. You got a video face and a radio voice.
Thanks, Shaun. I appreciate it. Well, I'm so fucking excited to have you. Welcome to the show. I personally have been, I've been watching your content for a few years now, easily. My friends and I used to send it to each other. So I'm really excited to have you here. But for anyone who, I don't know why, doesn't know who you are, could you please introduce yourself and just share a little bit about you and your journey and how you got to where you are?
My name is Shaun Galanos. I'm a love coach. I create content under the Love Drive on Instagram. 10 years ago, I started driving a taxi in San Francisco, 2014. And driving a taxi is fun until it's not. It gets kind of boring. And a friend said, "Hey, you should record your conversations with your passengers." And so I did. Put cameras in the back, started talking about sex and love, because that's the thing that I've always had a lot of energy around and curiosity about. And I called it the Love Drive. And that was sort of the beginning of me creating content, and then eventually that morphed into a podcast, videos. I got certified as a coach, started coaching clients, and then I started doing courses and groups and retreats, and that was 10 years ago. So that's just the quick and dirty about me. Is that I am living in Montreal. I'm 41 years old. I'm single. Probably going to be moving to LA. And so kind of splitting my time between LA and Montreal because I love this city. This city, Montreal, is sort of it's the best city that I've been able to find. It's also where I'm from. So. Oh,
I love it. Well, I'm excited to have you because we're going to talk about a lot of good shit today. But I'm also excited to have you because you have a new podcast out, right? With John Kim, who was on this show before.
Yeah. John and I met a couple months ago at Love and Relationship Summit in Vancouver. And I'd always known of the Angry Therapist. And then we just sort of developed this little bromance. And then I went to LA and things went really well for me there. I went on KTLA. I met up with John. We decided to do a podcast. We have a podcast called We Can Do Better. So 2 men, 1 coach, 1 therapist, talking about how we as men can do better in all aspects. And then we do some Q&A and shooting the shit. And it's been really nice to get to know him, actually.
Oh, he's such a solid human being. So I was so excited to see the show. But can we actually, because, I'm just going to take this where it's at. Curious, as a man, what are you seeing now in dating? no, I wasn't prepped to ask you this question, but I'm fucking going for it. What are you seeing now in dating that you think can be done better? Because I hear it from the ladies, but I'm curious in a personal perspective of you also being single and dating. What are you seeing?
Well, I'm just one dude dating. So like my experience is, I think I'm doing okay in the dating department. To be truthful, my dad passed away a little over a year ago. My girlfriend and I broke up. My house got broken into. I ended up in the ER. It was just like a really I didn't end up in the ER because my house got broken into. Those are two separate instances, but it was just a really hard year. And so I'm just now getting back to dating. So I don't really have a ton of experience, although I do have a lot of experience over the last 20 years.
Right.
What I'm hearing from a lot of people on Instagram and my clients is that guys are having a really hard time making conversation, not talking about themselves exclusively, being curious about the other person. And how I can relate this to my life, which is kind of interesting. I have found myself on dates with women that I am not interested in, right? Like I met them online. I thought it might be a good fit. I show up. I'm instantly wishing I was at home.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what, maybe half of all, or maybe more than half of all first dates are sort of just non-starters from the beginning. If I had met this person in real life, this is hard. I mean, it's a little hard to admit. I would have just walked right by them. Right.
Yeah.
And so it is hard to generate enthusiasm for someone that you are not interested in. You're sort of how long can I stay?
Yeah.
Where I won't look like a total asshole for wanting to leave, right? 45 minutes, I think, is sort of the 30 to 45 is sort of the bare minimum. But barring just total lack of interest, guys having a really hard time making conversation, right? Being curious about the other person, some back and forth, some flow. That's been kind of a struggle for a lot of women that I've heard of recently.
I enjoy dating. I'm not going to lie. I know it's exhausting, and I know that there is two sides of the coin. But I did enjoy the fact when you did show up and the person was everything that you were hoping they'd be, and you're like, oh my God, I'm schwitzing. I'm just sitting here for 3 minutes. I'm this is so fun. But I do remember those dates where you show up and you're like, okay, how quick can I drink this, right? How quick can I do this before you're like, okay, this matcha is piping hot, but I'm I can get through it in about 20. I can talk about stuff. And then you're just we're in such a time where gender is fluid, and it's, the women are feeling this, the men are feeling this, right? The theys, the he's, the she's, the theys, everybody is going through it. But what I see a lot is this confusion of how a man should show up. I had somebody write in, just an example of what I mean by that. Is this guy wrote into me and he was like, hey, I really, really like this woman. I'm so into her. We've been dating for 3 months, but I'm a little hesitant to ask her if she'd like to be my girlfriend and define the relationship, because I've been seeing all this content online that says that the woman should do it first and the man shouldn't show his emotions. And I'm just confused. And me reading this, I'm I don't know who is saying that to you, because I haven't seen that side of the internet personally, but just kind of this confusion of, do I kiss her or do I not? Do I text good morning? Do I not? Do I show this interest, or is that going to make them run away? Do I ask this person? Do I show my emotions, or am I a little pussy? There's just so much confusion, and I wasn't sure how you kind of view that, because to me as a dude, I think I would struggle. As a woman, I struggled to figure out how to interact without being I'm going to say the in air quotes, too masculine, the internet verbiage. But finding that, I think that striking that right balance, I was curious if you've personally experienced that, or if you've also been kind of seeing this confusion as well.
Big question. Several small answers. I think we should just stop playing games, because nobody knows the rules.
No.
Right. And the rules change based on who you're going out with. So it's not even worth trying to figure it out. I know I hate, this is so common, but be yourself. Act in a way that makes sense for you, not what you think you should do in order to get the results that you want, which is kind of counterintuitive, right? Because in any other scenario, hey, if I want to build muscle, I got to go to the gym, I got to do hypertrophy, I got to do 4 times a week. There's a schedule, there's a program. When it comes to finding love, I think it's a lot more of an art than it is a science.
Yeah.
And there's, like you said, there's a lot of gender fluidity. There are masculine roles, traditional roles. Everything's kind of changing. And so it's hard to adjust to what other people are doing also. The other piece is that I think people are just really struggling in the love relationship department, finding their person, if that's what they're looking for. And they haven't had luck doing what they've been doing. And so they're just looking for the answer. And then the problem with those social media is that there's just like endless opinions on what you should do. And so it gets really, really confusing when you're taking in all of this input. And I struggle with this. Like I struggle with people's opinion of me as like a creator, as a person. Yeah. And I'm always like, oh, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I was like, oh, was that too much? Was that too little? And this is just me as like a human. But people are taking all of this stuff and they're trying to like game the system in a way that's not really working. And it's out of alignment. It's inauthentic. And I'll give you a personal example. I've got someone that I'm excited to get to know. And she has made some advances in our like very brief courtship. And I was talking to my therapist about it. And my therapist said, hey, isn't it nice that she's actually like showing interest, making the move, inviting you to stuff? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's usually been you that's doing all of this. And so now I'm finally in a situation where there's someone showing interest and it does feel nice. And guess what? It's not turning me off because it's with someone that I actually enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by Open. Guys, if you're like me and you've tried it all, but yet you still struggle with stress, anxiety, lack of focus, high cortisol, motivation, mental clarity, lack of sleep, you name it, then this is where I think you need to try breathwork. Breathwork meditation literally saved my life and changed my life. I start my day every morning with a 10-minute meditation to balance and to kind of come back to the space and set the day up for how I'd like it to be. And then throughout the day, anything that happens, I instantly turn to breath work because remember, the breath is the valve to the nervous system. So it's so important to be able to control it, to be able to move through issues with it. And up until Open, I didn't really know where to go. And what I love about the app is everything is all in one beautiful place. So you have movement, you have breath work, you have meditation. The sets are gorgeous. The teachers are amazing. Their voices are like angels. And every night I do a 10-minute meditation to help me go to sleep. And the app is just, it's so easy to use. It's so beautiful. And it's going to actually change your life. So guys, join me on the Open app and get 30 days free. That's right. Get 30 days free. Try it risk-free by visiting withopen.com/Sabrina. Again, guys, that's 30 days free by visiting withopen.com/Sabrina. Can't wait to sit with you guys. That's the key fucking word. One, and it's like when I met Ryan, it was refreshing. It was strange, albeit very like my core beliefs were like, hey girl, what? You actually think you're worthy of this? Like, have you done, we've talked enough? And it's like, yeah, that's its own struggle of meeting someone that's more secure. But I'm glad we're talking about this game shit because one, people ask, well, what are your rules? I'm like, I don't have any fucking rules. Listen, I'll never tell other people what to do. I'm not you. I'm not living your life. This is my lived experience. It's not yours. But I know personally the reason I like to share lived experience is because we hear all the time, no, don't say anything. You're going to be too much. You're going to push him away. And it's like, I don't know about you. For me on my first date personally, like my partner and I talked about like, do you want marriage? Do you want kids? Like we went on like a 3-hour hike. So we had a lot of time to talk unencumbered with no alcohol, just walking and talking. And it was very just like, how'd your last relationship end? Like, what did it teach you about yourself? And having these conversations of depth. And so many people, I remember making a video after saying like, these are the 3 questions I asked my partner on a first date. People freaking out. I would never ask this. This isn't a job interview. What are you doing? Every guy's going to get terrified of that. But at the end of the day, then I asked my partner, like a year later, I was like, can I ask you, like, why did you go out with me again? I was like, I'm just curious, like, what about it besides this ass outside of the physical that you were into? Like, what about it? And he was like, oh, it was the questions you asked, hands down. He was like, you were the depth I was looking for. Most women stay shallow. It's very like silly conversation. So he was like, having somebody that wasn't afraid to ask these questions was a really big turn on to me because I thought that was sexy, that you knew what you wanted and you weren't afraid to lose me if I didn't give the answer that you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like the hill I'll fucking stand on and die on is like, we have a man that's in front of me personally right now saying, that's not going to scare me off if my intentions are also that as well. It's more just if you're, correct me if I'm wrong, right? If your intentions, like you said, you went out on that woman and you weren't interested in her, doesn't matter if she plays the cool girl or if she came out strong, your intentions were not to pursue something.
It is refreshing. It's really nice. I mean, if they're into it, then it doesn't really matter what you do or what you talk about. As long as you don't step on any landmines and you are curious enough to see each other again, then it's probably going to go well. Like I'll double text, I'll triple text. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
If I have something to say, that's when I'm like, I will text this person. But because I'm big on like, I need to check in with myself. And like, listen, a lot of the audience that we have anxiety. And I say we because, hi, I am such a poster child for anxiety. It's maddening. But there is a lot of that. Do I say this? Do I not? And for me, it's really big. I'm like, if you have something to say because you genuinely have something to say, then say it. Being so scared of, oh, I can't double text this person. It's like, but when you're coming from, like, I'm curious, and this is your personal experience. I'm not asking you to speak for all men, but as somebody who is significantly more secure, working on themselves, like really aware, all of those amazing qualities. My one main question here is like, if a woman texts you or something, if she double texts or anything, is that a turn off of, oh God, she's too thirsty, she's too much? Because we have this, no, a man needs to pursue me, he needs to be doing everything. But correct me if I'm wrong, on my side of it, I want reciprocity.
It's not too much. I mean, it's like, again, it really depends. I think there is something attractive about somebody who's hard to get. This is why this is so complex, is that right. Like, yeah, if you're too available right off the bat, it could be a sign that like this is too easy. And I think people do want some element of like a little hard to get. I mean, was your partner easy to get?
No, that's actually like 100%. What it was there was definitely no games about it, but he lived his own life, and so did I. Like we both had really busy schedules. So if I was like, "Hey, do you want to do something?" No, unfortunately, I can't. But here's my next availability. So it wasn't a game of like, sorry, I'm busy. When he wasn't, it was like, no, I genuinely have 6 things going on this week. How is next week for you? Yeah. It allowed, distance created a little desire.
Yeah. So that's what I want to say is like, if you have a big life and they have a big life, there's going to be some built-in sort of like schedule conflicts that are going to make it a little bit more interesting. It's going to add some tension, right? If you find someone you're like, hey, I really like you. And they're like, yeah, I want to spend all my time with you. You're going to be like, wow, okay, that's strange. Yeah. And that could be a bit of a turnoff. But 2 texts? No. If someone double texts me, it's because I forgot to get back to them the first time. And now I'm going to feel bad and I'm going to want to get back and say, sorry, I forgot to reply to your first message. Yes. And here's, the reply to the second message. Yeah. I mean, I get a lot of comments or questions from women saying, how do I say this without looking needy, desperate, or clingy? Right. And it's like, just say the thing. And if they think it's needy, desperate, or clingy, then that's just not your person. It's so much easier to live from that perspective than it is to try to play like 4D chess, trying to figure out what, the ultimate moves to get the guy. It just doesn't seem like it's authentic or in alignment.
No. And one thing that I kind of personally learned the hard way was for a long time, I thought like I was playing it cool. Like no one could pick up on my anxiety. And then I've spoken to guys and they're like, oh, no. Within like one text from you, I could sense the anxiety. I could see that you wanted me to text you or that there was a dynamic. And it's like, yeah, that was because I wasn't being authentic. I was not coming from a place of authenticity, trying to actually connect with somebody. I was very clearly being driven by, I'm scared you're going to lose me. You're going to forget about me. Like that narrative that was really playing in my head. And as much as I think a lot of people try to pretend, like I am curious, are you able to like pick up on things like that relatively quickly when you see dialogue from somebody?
I don't know. I can definitely pick up on when somebody's not interested and they're not able to say it.
Yeah.
Right? They take extra long to get back to you. Everything's super non-committal. And then that to me is like, I totally lose interest.
Rightfully so.
Well, they're not interested, first of all. And number 2, they're not able to communicate. And that's a turnoff for me, right? I'd much rather someone just be like right off the bat saying like, hey, this isn't going to work for me. This isn't the connection I'm looking for. I'm not really interested. I will respect that more.
Yeah.
And it's also just like, it's a time saver for everybody.
But that also comes from like you having like self-awareness, boundaries, non-negotiables. Like there is also an aspect of like, if you're somebody that you're like, hey, that doesn't work for me, it is a turnoff versus when, at least for me, like when I was in my toxic shit, you're like, oh, challenge accepted. And it's like,
yeah, me too.
Right. I was going to say like, you've grown and evolved. It becomes a lot less sexy when you're like, I don't need to chase after you. Like, this is really tiring.
It's tiring. It's anxiety inducing. It's not good for me. It ruins my sleep. It's just like not what I want to be spending any energy doing.
When did you see, I'm curious, because I know you said that you used to be like that. Where did you notice a shift on when you started to like change the way that you dated and get turned off by somebody's unavailability as opposed to turned on?
I think I had a girlfriend. We broke up like 3 years ago. We were together for 3 years. She was never really available, but she gave me just enough to keep me interested. So I wish I could say like, oh, in my early 30s, but it was actually really only like 3 years ago. Right. Lots of therapy. I've been working on this and childhood stuff and later than I want to admit.
Please, are you kidding me? My partner is the first healthy person I've ever had. I'm like, I am the first to be like, no, it took me a lot of really shitty human beings after a while to just, you're like, I don't want to keep doing this anymore. Like it's a merry-go-round that I'd like to get off because I'm consistently nauseous. But I am curious because something that you and I have talked about is like how to be happy single, right? And like, obviously happy is such an elusive term. Like I don't expect, and I think we also need to be cognizant that like, no feeling is going to stay forever. But a lot of people had asked like, what does that look like to feel happy and single? Like, how do you maintain that?
I mean, why are we even looking at happiness as the goal, right? Like, can we just be content?
Right. Yeah.
Content is like, oh, there's nothing really wrong with my day right now or with my life right now. I think that's a lot more realistic than happy. Happy is a state of joy, right? Like for me, joy and happiness is like fairly fleeting, and all emotions are like transitory, right? They don't just stay forever. Unless you have depression and it's untreated. But for the most part, positive feelings, negative ones, pleasant and unpleasant, I'd rather describe them as pleasant and unpleasant, are gonna shift. So can you be content with your life, right? Are you building a big life regardless of your romantic life, right? So career opportunities, good friends, community. I mean, I was living in Arizona for 2 years in Flagstaff because I thought I wanted ski, bike, climb life and like a cabin existence. And I was way too isolated. And it was really, really, really challenging. And I never really met my people. I met people and I had great friends, but they weren't my people. Yeah. And so when I moved back to Montreal, instantly felt a sense of community that I haven't felt in a really long time. And that really makes a difference on happiness. I mean, they've done the studies that like, some amount of low level, low stake interactions with people in your neighborhood, like the people at the grocery store, people at the coffee shop, saying hello, them knowing your name, that stuff makes a huge difference on your happiness levels, right? So are you isolating? And if you are, can you get back out into the community, whether that's through volunteer opportunities, through exercise, through coffee shops, through getting like the work from home thing has been really problematic for people.
Yeah.
They're not getting the contact that they used to get in the workplace. So you got to dial your community in, right? This is all to answer the question of like how to be happy single. Dial your community in, dial your friends and family. You have to give back some element, some volunteer opportunities if you're fortunate enough to have the time and or the money to do so. Take care of your body. I mean, this is all obvious stuff, right? This is like tips for how to be mentally healthy, right? Like take care of your body, exercise on a regular basis, eat well, sleep, don't scroll until 3 a.m, right? Like all this stuff helps. And then I guess you do have to sort of address this idea that like you want partnership and it's okay to want partnership, right? So like own the desire for partnership. Also own that maybe that when you meet that person is not on your timeline. Right. Like I've heard people say like, oh, if you want to make God laugh, like tell him your plans.
Yeah.
So like cheesy, but it's true, right? Like it's not really on our timeline. And if you're not doing anything about meeting someone, then you kind of have to do some of it, right? Like,
yeah, you literally can't stay home. I remember my mom, I used to say that, I'm like, Mom, you can't just sit home on the couch. And she's like, actually, I'm like, oh, what now? What story do you have to fit this? And she's like, my friend in college, the man knocked on her door. It was the wrong house he was going to, and they're married. And it's like, oh, okay. The one time, that one time out of like 9 billion human beings on the planet that worked out, it's not how it works. But yes, I mean,
anecdotes are not useful in this scenario.
Fun little stories. Thanks for making me feel like shit. Thanks for making me want to sit on my couch. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. My fellow entrepreneurs, my business owners, my independent contractors, my babes. If you need a website, please look no further. Squarespace is here for you. So guys, what is Squarespace? It is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms. I can't scream this from the rooftops enough. We've had so many issues with different platforms. The booking system on our one platform is a living nightmare, and it has always been so tough. They are constantly overbooking, double booking. It's issues up the wazoo. And then where we host our courses, it's just so limited. We can't streamline it. And that's why I'm so excited about Squarespace is we can finally streamline everything and have a better user experience so that when you guys go to the website, it's a lot more enjoyable. What I love is that Squarespace has Blueprint AI and SEO tools. So you can completely personalize your website with a new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. So you can choose from professionally curated layouts and styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. They have flexible payments, which is fantastic. There's Apple Pay in eligible countries, credit cards, PayPal, you name it. And Squarespace AI. You can kickstart or update written content on any website, product description, or email with Squarespace AI. Plus, let's talk about the courses, right? If you're a content creator and you're somebody like me who's trying to help more people and get out there, then Squarespace truly is for you. So guys, for a limited time only, our listeners get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using Sabrina. So head to squarespace.com/Sabrina to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using code Sabrina. Again, squarespace.com/Sabrina to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using the code Sabrina. I know for me, like I really struggled personally, like with that. I filled my life out because I was single for a long fucking time. Like I moved to New York when I was 19 and then I had like 3 partners that were like, 9 months to a year. So we're talking 15 years though of being an adult dating between 18 to 32, almost 33 when I met my partner of like being alone. Right. And like always knowing cognitively, like my mom always used to say, the relationship you have with yourself is the most important because at the end of the day, you were born with yourself and you're going to die with yourself. Like you are the only one that will consistently be with you for life. Now, hearing that when you're single and you're like, oh, great, thanks. But I really worked for me to like try to reframe certain aspects. Like I remember once like sitting home, I think it was like, the holidays, something like that. And I was just alone and I was calling my mom. I was like, I'm so sad. I'm so bummed. Oh, I'm home alone. And she was like, maybe we can shift this. She's like, this could be the last time you're ever alone on this holiday. And maybe you can just enjoy that for now. And I was like, oh yeah. And like, so I really tried to accept like, yeah, like this, I kind of fell in love with the simple things of life of like, yeah, that's true. I can just like watch whatever I want on TV and like in the middle of it, just like do yoga on my floor if I want. And then I could just go take my dog for a walk and then I can go get whatever food I want. And so instead of looking at this like, oh, another night alone, it was like, well, wait a minute, it's another night alone. Like I get to actually get excited because all I ever thought was a relationship was going to save me, fix me, fill in the blank. A relationship will... Until I realized like, no, a relationship's going to trigger you, challenge you, and force you to look at those things that being single, you can kind of not really, like triggers, not
100%.
do as much. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, right. How do I, one, find a balance about being okay alone, but then find a balance about letting somebody else in my life? Because I know the pendulum swings. We want that connection. And then you get really okay not getting the connection. You get scared of getting triggered and getting hurt. And then all of a sudden it's the hyper independence of, I don't need anybody. I'd rather stay single.
Yeah. Something you said that sort of like triggered a thought, which is the importance of sort of grieving the life that you wish you had.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh,
100%.
I really wish I was in partnership right now. Right? And just like being really sad about that and watching rom-coms that instead of making you laugh, make you cry. Right? And just like owning that like deep, deep desire for partnership and just being like, wow, this is really not what my life has turned out. Like I thought I was going to have 2 kids by 30. I'm 41, no kids, no girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, the life, that ship went out. That ship sailed so long ago.
Hopefully we're building something that's, in alignment and different and probably better than what we could have hoped. But I think it's important to sit in that sadness. You don't have to wallow in it, but like give it space, right? Like it's an important part of you.
Well, and I think the important aspect of doing that, and I'm glad you brought that up, is because there's also an element, like I think what I hear often, and maybe you hear this too, it's like there's just that intense fear of rejection, which is very valid. Like, no, let me clarify. No one on the planet wants to be rejected. I don't want to, like, I know you can relate when I say, I don't want to post a video and have 1,000 trolls. It's like, I don't look forward to someone saying, I don't like you or I don't want to be with you. That's not like a goal. But I think part of also falling in love with your life, part of being okay single and accepting like my boundaries and non-negotiables are not too much, all of those aspects, is also knowing that like just because I meet someone amazing and have a one nice date, it is also knowing that like that might not work out. And it's something that like I have one client, and I love all of my clients, but she is so fucking terrified of when I even say like, hey, maybe you guys just aren't compatible. Like it sounds like you've had a fuck ton of issues for the first 6 weeks of dating. And if we're ready, this is the first 6 weeks, man. Like, this is stuff that I hear fucking couples with like 10 years of marriage dealing with, and you guys are struggling in the first month and a half, and she can't it's everything is just that intense scarcity and the fear. And it's like, I get that. That's all very valid. That's coming from somewhere. But I think part of also being okay single means that like it's also okay to walk away from people that don't match it. Because I'd rather be alone and single and sleep in my bed at night getting my sleep than lose sleep because either I have some shitty partner next to me or I feel more alone in a relationship than I did with this person.
Yeah. Or I'm like up because I'm so anxious that they're totally, ghosting me or not around or like yanking my chain or whatever.
It's like, it's valid. It's like, I get all of that. But I think we also need to be okay with, yes, just because I meet somebody, like I hear this all the time. Well, they said they wanted a relationship. It's like, who said they wanted one with you? Who said they wanted one with you in the way that you want one? Because part of being a human is also like that whole free will thing.
Yeah, I mean, it could end at any time for sure.
I wanted to kind of shift a little bit because I think it is a big topic, that STIs and dating, right? We know it's very common for people to have something. It's 2024. If you have encountered somebody in your life that's had something, like that's very normal, especially like when I lived in New York. Are you fucking kidding me? You were surprised when people said they didn't have something more than when they said they did. But I am curious because you are very vocal and open about having something personally, and like it's okay, cool. Lots of people have it. But how have you seen dating? Obviously, male and female perspectives will be different because it is men sharing that they have like herpes or something. You're like, wow, how honest and vulnerable and open. Like women sharing it, you're dirty, and you're like, God damn it.
Well, it's not that you're dirty. It's that dudes just kind of are not great at fucking having that conversation or being accepting, or like they're just pretty clueless, actually. So my experience sharing the fact that I have herpes to female partners has been like really validating and lovely and tender. It hasn't, for the most part, affected my ability to have sex. I did hook up with someone quite recently, actually, that had been married for 10 years. And so she was just new to the dating market. And I said, oh, by the way, I have herpes. I mean, not by the way. I mean, we had a conversation about before having sex, which is when you should be having this conversation, hopefully before you're naked. You stop making out and you say, hey, I'd love to talk about sexual health. This seems like an appropriate time. I don't want to be presumptuous about what may or may not happen between us, but let me go first, right? I was last tested 2 months ago. I've had one partner since then. I have genital herpes. I haven't had symptoms in X amount of months. I take valacyclovir, an antiviral, to prevent transmission. I use barriers for penetrative sex, not for oral sex, right? So that could be like, that's a pretty good place to start. That's probably more complete than most people will have in terms of a conversation. People are going to be like, I'm clean. And we don't use clean and dirty because we don't use clean because the opposite of clean is dirty. We say negative or positive for whatever the test results are. So I said this to her and she was like, oh my God. Oh, now I'm really nervous. And I was like, well, it's okay. You don't have to be nervous. We don't have to have sex. She's like, but I want to, but now I'm like, is that high risk? And I was like, look, we could do some research. I could share some stuff with you. We don't have to do this right now. It's totally fine. And she just wasn't prepared. She wasn't prepared to have this conversation because she'd been in a monogamous marriage for 10 years and she didn't know that like there are risks now, right? And if you're going to have sex can be a risky activity. There's no safe sex. There's only safer sex. So it's all about risk mitigation. And it's all about what kind of risk are you willing to tolerate. So my experience has been overwhelmingly positive. Right? Women are just like you said, they're like, oh my God, he's so honest. I love this. In my experience, if I don't have the sexual health conversation, I'm not sure it's going to happen. Because sometimes I've like kind of waited a little bit and I was like, let's see if are they going to bring it up? And who knows, maybe I just bring it up too soon, like so soon that I'm not giving them a chance. But I kind of feel like, I've talked to enough people that say, if I don't bring it up, it doesn't get brought up.
Yeah. Which is, when I was dating, the amount of men that would try to fuck you without a condom was wild to me. Like, just not without a conversation, to your point, without even being like, hey, like I remember one guy even just stopping and being like, hey, what are you doing? And he was like, well, wait, are you on birth control? I was like, no.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I was like, none of them. First of all, I don't know who you are. Second of all, nothing is 0% unless you don't go inside of me. That's the only way that potentially could be zero. There's a risk for everything. Can we talk about it? And like, I will always like use condoms, use protection, but like, I appreciate that you're open about it, because it's STIs in general have such a stigma of like, oh, well, what did you do? Like, kind of like you earned it almost, or like dirty, clean aspect.
I mean, I'll tell you what I did. I had unprotected sex with somebody, and she had sex with somebody recently, and I had sex with somebody recently. But we both had this conversation of not having any STIs, but there was a risk there. And somewhere along the way, either I got it or she got it, and we gave it to each other. Right. And so I really wish I had used a condom, right? I really wish I had. And what can you say? Like, it's one of my regrets, but now that's life. And what am I going to do? Like, I'm just going to accept it and have conversations about it, and hopefully be able to help other people have conversations about it. And it's not the end of the world. It's very manageable. The great thing about having herpes is that you know you have it. You know what the symptoms are. You usually know when you're going to have an outbreak. It responds very well to being healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're unhealthy, if you're stressed, is sort of when people get outbreaks. So take care of your sleep, take care of your diet, exercise. You're much less likely to have outbreaks. Use antivirals, even more less likely to have outbreaks. And so I would almost prefer to have sex with somebody who knows their status, who takes care of themselves, rather than with people who are like, I don't know. I don't know the last time I got tested, but like, whatever, I'm fine. And it's like, okay, you think you're fine. Like, you have no idea really if you're fine.
This episode is brought to you by Nutrafol. You guys know how much I love Nutrafol. I will literally scream this from the rooftops. My hair was thinning. It was shedding. I was having so many hair issues, and I started Nutrafol, and my hair has never looked better. I mean, to the point where even some of you guys are commenting like, your hair just looks incredible. And it's like, I haven't done anything different besides this incredible supplement. What I love is that Nutrafol has a proactive approach, and they target root causes. So personally, I've seen improved hair growth, decreased shedding, visible thickness while taking Nutrafol. It's clinically tested, so that's fantastic. You know that you're safe with whatever you're taking, and all you have to do is take 4 pills daily with a meal. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I've been taking it for about 9 months now, and needless to say, I'm never stopping. I actually even got my mom on it, because when she had her surgeries, she was really struggling, and so I got her on Nutrafol as well. And Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1 million people. You guys will see thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. So guys, get results you can run your fingers through. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Sabrina. You guys will find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Again, Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, and the promo code is Sabrina. Again, that's Nutrafol.com, and the promo code is Sabrina. Anytime I've ever encountered anybody, like I've had people tell me that they've had it, and it's like the same thing. They're like, hey, this is me I'm not worried about you getting it. I just want to be honest and transparent that like, this is what I have. And you're like, okay, cool. Thanks so much for letting me know. Like, now you're giving me the choice to take the precautions. Where I've seen it go awry is, to your point, when no one shares it or it comes out after. And it's like, you are not, listen, it's not that you're not allowed, but like, I don't think it's appropriate to make a decision for somebody, because unfortunately for the people that have gotten it that weren't given a choice, they are taking care of themselves and doing what they need to do in order to prevent it. And so I think it is really important to like, one, remove the stigma around it, but also to remove the stigma around the conversation. Because somebody actually asked how to be protective and aware, but not skeptical and salty. And I was like,
I mean, I don't know. How often does that happen?
That's a great question. I think realistically, there's also a difference too, depending on where you're dating. Like when you date in New York, LA, Miami, like major cities, you're dating more often, you're dating more frequently because there's more people, there's more, the dating apps, things like that. Like when I lived in New York and LA, I had 1,000 dates could be every week, right? There's always a channel, versus in San Diego, you're like, there's like 4 single people in where I'm at. So it's like, okay, it's a different dynamic. But as like, In my history, I have only ever had 2 men tell me that they had herpes, and I could all but guarantee there was significantly more because mama had her hoe hat on for a long fucking time. And I was sleeping around and I was doing my thing. I've gotten STIs before. I have gotten things that you can get rid of. It's not anything against me. And it's either like, are you going to wear it as a scarlet letter? As if like, oh my God, I'm so scared to tell people. I'm so terrified. It's like, or are you just going to look at this as like, maybe it just weeds people out? Because, hey, if I tell you I have herpes and your response is, oh, well, I'm freaked out and I'm scared. It's like, that's okay. Like you said, that's fine. You have every right to make a decision. But then that usually shows me is like, what are your intentions then? Because if you're intentionally trying to get to know me, go to your doctor, educate yourself, understand what's going on. Let's talk about it. You can still say no. And I think that's also like one thing somebody had actually asked, like, or had even just made a comment of like, can you guys please also talk about the fact that like, I understand for people that have something, it's really, really hard for someone to tell you that like they're not okay with it. It's really hard. I totally understand that. But we also can't villainize people if they tell you they're not comfortable with it.
Honestly, I'd be like, okay, fine. I mean, if
You do
someone's
you.
gonna, yeah, like I'll be disappointed only because I thought I was gonna get laid and now I'm not getting laid. But if you're not comfortable with it, cool. Like, and if you're gonna have this like outsized reaction about it, like you're probably not gonna have great sex anyways.
Right. And especially because someone asked, like, I'm just even looking at the questions people had asked. So you've answered quite a few, but like, how do I say it so it doesn't scare them off? And someone said, can you make it a cute date to get tested together? And it's like the second half, yes. If you want to make it a cute date and go get tested together, sure. Go have dinner.
That's
go to the
cute
clinic.
as fuck. It's cute as fuck. I've never done it. I'll probably never do it, but it's really, really cute.
Same. But I also don't think it's a big deal, like to ask someone and say like, hey, I don't want to have sex with you without protection until you get tested.
That's nothing. That's not weird. It's not clingy. It's not like off-putting. Okay, here's what I would like to say
Please.
About sexual health. Like, it is 100% your responsibility to keep yourself safe. So I don't care what their response is, right? Like, all you're doing is taking care of yourself. And there's been an increase in HIV transmissions, between heterosexual couples.
Really?
Yeah. So, and the female partner is always going to be a little bit more at risk because it's more of a receptive role, or anyone who plays anally. And so, like, there are significant risks, right? And I'm not saying it's rampant, but it's 100% your job. And so make sure you do that job very well.
Yeah.
And I will say that the more you talk about it, the easier it gets. Still awkward. I've never found it to be like, this is fun. I'm not having fun, but it does lead to fun. And it leads to like fun that I don't feel bad about because I'm not hiding the fact that I've got an STI, right? We're informed. And my job is to give someone as much information as I have so that they can make the right decision for them. And whether that's to sleep with me or to not sleep with me, that's just what happens. That's the deal.
Well, it's like anything else. It's like there is a risk for everything. If we think it's the same, there's a risk for me to die today, right? There's a risk for literally everything on the planet. There's a risk that this doesn't work out. There's a risk that you may or may not get it. But it's like, can't live in a constant state of fear and panic of like, oh God, okay, well then let me just live in a bubble. It's like, well, then dating is going to be a lot tougher because unfortunately, yeah, there are going to be people like, also one thing that we should also mention is like herpes is not part of the standardized testing. Like you can go to your doctor and say, I want to do my blood work. Usually, a lot of the times you either have to pay out of pocket. I had to pay out of pocket every time I got a herpes tested. Or they'll tell you, well, do you have an outbreak? Well, if you don't, then you're fine. And you're like, yeah, but I want to make sure. But the blood work doesn't always show. Like I've had so many doctors almost try to get, I asked one doctor, I said, why do you dissuade people? Like, why do you try to convince them? And she said, because what's the point of getting you so in your head and scared? If you don't have an outbreak, there's nothing we can really do for you right now anyways, because the blood work might not even come out positive. And she's like, it's more mentally that it's going to mess with you than it actually does anything to you in your body.
Yeah. Also, Europeans have a much different like reaction to herpes. They like don't test for it. They don't care about it. It's just like, it's a cold sore, big deal. That said, like if you've got a cold sore on your mouth, you have herpes.
Exactly.
Right. And you should be telling people before you make out with them, because to be honest, I have herpes on my penis. I don't want it on my mouth. I
remember one guy I dated and I finally asked him, we were talking about it and he was like, oh yeah, I have it. And I was like, why didn't you say anything to me? And he was like, oh, it's just a cold sore. And I was like, no. Do you take Valtrex when you get a cold sore? He's like, yeah. I said, so it's the same thing. He's like, no, it's different. You're not going to get it. And I was like, dude, My mother got it when she was a child because an uncle kissed her on her cheek, and she got it there because he had a cold sore. And like my mom, she was like, I had it when I was a child because she was like, I would just get cold sores in my mouth. And she lived in Europe. So she was like, no, nobody said anything until she came to America. And she found it. She's like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, I got that as a child. It's very easy if you have it on your mouth, you little kissy kiss, you go down on somebody, you can spread it. That I have had so many of my friends tell me, I don't say anything. Why don't you say anything? Well, I'm not having an outbreak. It's like,
it's weird. It's weird. It's weird.
To me, to me, you're lying to me then. You're not being honest with me that you know that you have something. And that builds intimacy. When you're able to tell, you have a partner that you can say, hey, this is what I have, blah, blah. And they say, wow, thank you so much for sharing. Like, I'm okay with that. You feel so much closer to that person because you're like, thank you for being a safe space that I could express myself to.
Yeah. And you're taking their health into consideration.
Yeah.
So you're already like bonus points. Good partner.
Totally. And it's like someone asked, like, how do you respond to someone who says they don't want to date you because of the STI?
Yeah. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Convince them? No. You accept it. This person is not for me. And that's too bad. And I could see how if you have that experience, you're going, well, next time I'm not going to tell anybody. But that's also not a better strategy. I think we just accept the fact that some people are not for us.
This episode is brought to you by Skims. Oh, guys, I hated wearing underwire bras for years. I'm not kidding. Like the second I would get home, I would take that bad boy off, or even to the point where like, I just don't want to wear it. I wear sports bras or something comfortable as much as I can. But Skims literally changed that because I finally found an underwire bra that I actually love. The level of comfort and support is truly unparalleled. Like I've never experienced anything quite like the Skims bra. It's like second skin. You literally don't even notice that you have it. You don't even realize that you have it on. And when you're dating and you're going out there and you're going from day to night, or maybe you're at work all day and then you're like, you don't really have time to go home and maybe you don't have time to change. It feels so nice to feel supported, even with it just being the bra that you're wearing. The best part is that they have wireless form t-shirt bras and they give you a little lift without digging or poking. So guys, shop Skims bras at skims.com, now available in 62 sizes, 30A through 46H. That is absolutely incredible. And if you haven't already, please be sure to let them know that I sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select your show in the drop-down menu that follows. Anybody listening, you 100% have every right to ask somebody to get tested. You have every right to say, I want to sleep with you and I would like to see results. Like I have done that many a times where we'll screenshot and send it to each other of like, hey, you could see the date. Here's the time. Cool. Now we're good. We can go have fun. There's nothing wrong with that. If somebody's going to make a big deal, and I have had guys make a big deal out of it, you're like, cool, then this is absolutely not for me because that does not make me feel comfortable that you're refusing to wear a condom or get tested.
Well, yeah, refusing to wear a condom is not, that's bad. That's very bad. I mean, that's not someone I would want to have sex with. I will say on the other side of this whole thing is that I have never shown anybody my test results. They have just believed me when I told them when I got tested and what those results were and the kind of sex that I've had, the risks that I've been exposed to since that last test.
Yeah.
And I think that's for a lot of people, they're like, oh, wait, this sounds like somebody who knows what they're talking about. I'm much less likely to be deceived by someone who's able to tell you when they were tested, what the test results were, what their practices have been since then, than someone who's like, yeah, I don't know, like that can't talk about it with any sort of confidence. But if someone wanted to see the test results and I like them, I would show them.
Right. It's more of like, yeah, you have nothing to hide. It's like for me, the only reason they sent me theirs is because I sent them mine. I literally sent a screenshot and I was like, done. Like, here you go. That's it. There it is. And it's like, perfect. And it was such a non-issue because like, here's the thing. It became a non-issue because it didn't become an issue, but it is something that's important and something to talk about. And there is, of course, I'm not gonna say there's no need to be scared about having the conversation. Of course it is. It's scary to have a conversation like that because there is a risk that this person might not resonate. Because also if you talk about, hey, let's get tested, what you're also implying as well is like that exclusivity conversation of like, if we get tested and we're both clean, cool, are you going to be sleeping with other people? Are we going to have to get retested? And I think that's probably a good portion of why people avoid it is it's like, oh, I don't want to have a serious conversation this early on. And it's like,
it's a great point.
I do.
I also want to say for anybody who, has had the experience of someone not dealing with your disclosure very well, for every person who doesn't deal with it well, there's someone else who will, right? Totally. There's plenty of guys that are just like, yeah, whatever. Either I have it, That's totally fine. I like you. I want to sleep with you. I think you're great. I want to keep getting to know you. Like, you're important to me. There's all those people out there too. So find that person. All the other ones who are acting immaturely about this are honestly not mature enough to be having sex.
100%. I remember my friend once telling a guy, and his response was, yeah, doesn't everybody have it? And he was like, cool, thanks for telling me. Like, she was anxious for like 6 weeks about it. Like, every day of just like, how am I going to do this? What if he leaves? And it's like, I get that. All of that is valid, but that narrative, that's the stuff that I'm like, ooh, could we focus on that? Like the fears and the insecurities and all that. It's valid. It's real, but let's focus on that versus I'm just not going to say anything because I'm scared of the reality. It's like, eventually someone's going to have to bring this up. Hopefully, you hope that somebody will bring up sexual health in the relationship. And if that's a point of contention, it's like, well, it's a good place to maybe put a period at the end of that sentence then. I wanted to kind of close with one question that somebody asked that I think is really valid. How do you personally handle or advise people when you get lonely?
I mean, to be honest with you, when I feel any sort of unpleasant emotion, I just allow myself to feel it. I think the best thing you can do is to just kind of lean into that loneliness a little bit. Snapping out of it or finding a way to cheer yourself up, I think, is not a good strategy. I think it gets you out of the emotion. The emotion that you're feeling is there for a reason, right? It's telling you, oh, wow, there's a need that's not being met, right? My need for connection, for closeness, for intimacy, for sexuality, whatever, is not being met. And that is painful to me right now. And so the more you can sit with that and accept it, maybe you go deeper into it. You listen to sad songs, you do a sad movie night, you call your friends to commiserate, not to like get distracted from it, I think is really, really important and will actually shorten the amount of time that you will feel that emotion. In my experience, I think what happens when you distract away from it or you bottle it back up is that it just keeps coming back, back and coming back. Because it's a teacher, right? Emotions are our teachers and they're there to tell us something. And so sit with it, don't wallow in it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're prone to depression, if you're prone to feeling blue for extended periods of time, then talk to your doctor. Right. There might be some sort of medical intervention that could help. And then again, like, I can't really stress for me the power of community.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're lonely, it's because you don't have a community. Right. Or like parts of it are lacking or you're not fulfilled by the community that you do have. And one thing that I've started to do, which is kind of bananas, because I never thought I would, is I started like doing group workout classes.
I love my fitness classes.
Jesus Christ. It's like High Five Central. Yeah. Everybody's awesome. I'm going to someone's birthday potluck that we met like from the gym with all the gym people. And it's like, holy crap, that makes a huge difference. And even when I don't want to go and I go, I'm always glad I went. I got a workout in, got some high fives. People, asking me things about my life just feels really, really good. So fitness classes, CrossFit, whatever, Orange Theory, whatever you need.
There was a studio in LA like that. And it was like, they'd have like comedy nights and like all of these things. I made so many friends. I joined Hike Club, like just to, in those moments, for me, when I was really struggling with the lonely, I really had to look at like, what was the narrative I was telling myself about it all? Like, was it that, okay, yeah, I want a partner. Cool. That's valid. I can validate that. Or was I also starting to go into like, there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. That's why nobody wants me. It's like, that I think is what you mean by like that wallow of like, okay, let's not get it to there. You're allowed to do anything, but like, it's totally valid and normal to be like, man, I really would love connection. Yeah. Cause you're human. That's why we are bred. We're biologically made to connect with humans. But you can definitely find other ways and interject yourself in the community. Like, oh my God, when I moved to LA, I joined Hike Club, cooking class, pottery, was not for me. But just all these different things to just try. Go to a workout class. I started talking to a girl the other day because I liked her tattoo and we just shoot the shit and like, gonna get coffee.
New friends, not the easiest thing to do as an adult, but totally doable.
Yeah.
Also run clubs. I mean, I gotta be honest, I joined a run club. Huge. And actually the woman that I'm interested in, met her at the run club. So
stop it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Shaun. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll have you back and we'll hopefully have a nice little update on the run club.
I hope so. Yeah. Just, by the way, I heard that if you join a run club in New York City and you wear black, it means that you're single.
Oh.
So there's like, that's not universal, but they're like, codes. People are like coding each other.
Oh, Shaun, thank you so much for being on the show and just having a really good conversation. It's awesome to have your vulnerability and transparency and have everybody be able to learn a little bit more about you as well.
Super happy to be here.
Thank you. And until the next time.
I'm looking for it in person.
I was going to say in person, way better.
Yeah.
And
Spotify
so real quick,
Studios.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Where can people find you? I know on Insta, but anything coming up?
Instagram, The Love Drive. No, there's nothing coming up. I've just been working on my subscription-based blogging Substack publication called The Love Drive. Awesome. So a lot more intimate writings. ShaunGalanos.substack.com. That's cool.
It. Yeah, I'll link everything in the show notes so people find you. But I'm stoked. Can't wait for part 2 in person.
Yeah, thank you so much.